Thank you, Pata, for providing the Philippines an opportunity to present the ASEAN Tourism Sectoral Plan for 2026 to 2030. The ASEAN Tourism Sectoral Plan, sorry, there you go. The ASEAN Tourism Sectoral Plan for 2026 to 2030 is actually a strategic policy document designed to guide the development of Southeast Asia as a single tourism destination over a 5-year period. It builds upon the successes of previous plans and post-pandemic recovery strategy to ensure the sector contributes significantly to regional economic growth and employment. The plan is anchored on 5 focus areas: resilient tourism, empowered tourism workforce, accessible and seamless travel, digital tourism and market diversification, and sustainable tourism. The Philippines serves as lead country coordinator in the development of the plan in partnership with the Asian Development Bank as knowledge partner. And of course, we would like to acknowledge the ASEAN National Tourism Organization of the ASEAN member states for the cooperation, and also the special thanks to Ms. Sanchita Basu Das of the Asian Development Bank for taking the lead in the development of this sectoral plan. Today, tourism contributes 9.4% of ASEAN's regional gross domestic product. The sector supports approximately by 13.5% of the total regional employment. Tourist contribution to ASEAN's regional GDP generates an estimated $374 billion in economic value. And lastly, international travel to ASEAN has rebounded significantly with 127 million international arrivals. As ASEAN navigates a rapidly evolving global landscape, several key trends are shaping the future of travel in our region. First, sustainable, inclusive, and responsible tourism, advancing beyond traditional sustainability toward regenerative tourism and climate resilience, ensuring that growth benefits local communities and preserves our natural environment. Second, market diversification and personalization, adapting to the demand shift from millennials and Gen Z who seek authentic, low-impact, and experience-rich travel, including segments like adventure, wellness, and long-stay digital nomadism. Digital transformation, meeting evolving expectation with seamless, mobile-first, and hyper-personalized digital solutions that enhance the traveler journey and increase industry productivity. Fourth, regional and multi-destination growth, capitalizing on the surge in intra-regional travel fueled by a growing middle class, diversified products, and restored air routes across the ASEAN member states. And lastly, planning for resilience, embedding resilience as a core pillar of tourism planning to ensure the sector can withstand and recover from climate shocks and future global disruptions. On the sidelines of the ASEAN Tourism Forum in Cebu, Philippines, the ASEAN Tourism Sectoral Plan 2026 to 2030 was officially launched by the ASEAN Tourism Ministers last January 29, 2026. Concurrent with this launch was the adoption of the ASEAN Declaration on the Implementation of ATSP 2026-2030, a landmark commitment designed to strengthen plan implementation, rally the support of our dialogue partners, and ignite deeper collaboration with the private sector, the true lifeblood of our industry. The declaration highlights 5 strategic priorities to guide our progress. 1, executing the ATSP 2026-2030 through its 5 interrelated focus areas. 2, promoting investment, innovation, and human capital development to enhance regional competitiveness, digital transformation, and sustainable practices. 3, activating partnerships across governments, the private sector, dialogue partners, and international organizations. 4, in strengthening our regional monitoring and evaluation mechanisms. And 5, fostering whole-of-region and whole-of-government approaches by working closely with relevant ASEAN sectoral bodies and stakeholders. The ASEAN strategic alignment is essential to view our efforts within the broader context of the ASEAN Vision 2045. Resilient, innovative, dynamic, and people-centered ASEAN. By 2045, ASEAN aspires to be a global leader in quality and high-value tourism that delivers sustainable and resilient outcomes, contributing significantly to the economic growth and employment of the ASEAN people. This long-term regional aspiration is advanced through the ATSP 2026 to 2030, which defines our immediate regional priorities and collaborative actions. The ATSP 2026 to 2030 is meticulously aligned with the AEC, or the ASEAN Economic Community Strategic Plan 2026 to 2030, to ensure policy coherence, regional integration, and shared prosperity across the tourism sector. It adopts the same strategic goals, objectives, and measures found in the AEC Strategic Plan, ensuring that tourism development contributes directly to ASEAN's broader economic integration agenda. The ATSP 2026-2030 has 5 focus areas. To translate our regional vision into action, the ASEAN Tourism Sectoral Plan is built upon the 5 interconnected focus areas. These areas represent our core sectoral priorities, which has an acronym, READS, which literally means resilient tourism, by building the capacity to withstand the recover from future shocks, empowerment of tourism workforce, by investing in the skills and well-being of our industry's greatest asset, its people. Accessible and seamless travel by enhancing connectivity and ease of movement across the region. Digital tourism, product and market diversification by leveraging technology to innovate our offerings and reach new traveler segments. And sustainable tourism, designated as Focus Area 5, ensuring our growth remains responsible and regenerative. These 5 focus areas are the engines of the sectoral plan's success to to ensure measurable progress. The plan is further operationalized through 10 strategic initiatives and 28 targeted activities, providing a clear and accountable roadmap for ASEAN tourism through 2030. As we look towards the 2026-2030 cycle, our goal is to move ASEAN beyond simple recovery. We are positioning the region as a resilient, high-tech, and inclusive global destination. This strategy is built on 5 interconnected focus areas. First, we are building resilience. It's not just about bouncing back from a crisis. It's about future-proofing. We are stimulating intra-ASEAN travel and diversifying our source markets. By utilizing our updated crisis communication manual and sub-regional platforms, we're ensuring our MSMEs and cross-border circuits can withstand global shocks while continuing to attract investment. Second is our people. Our competitiveness depends on an inclusive workforce. We are narrowing the skills gap by aligning an international competency standards and facilitating professional mobility. Crucially, we are expanding this focus to secondary destinations, ensuring women, youth, and those in the informal sector are certified, recognized, and empowered. Third, we must make travel seamless. We're working closely with transport and immigration authorities to reduce border friction by linking airlines, cruise lines, and industry associations. We are turning ASEAN into a single destination where travelers can move effortlessly into our second-tier cities and cross-border circuits. Fourth is innovation. We are leaning into the digital economy to empower MSMEs, or the micro, small, and medium enterprises, with data-driven marketing tools. But digital tools need great products to sell, which is why we are diversifying into high-growth niches like gastronomy, wellness, adventure, and MICE to strengthen our global brand. And finally, the heart of our strategy is sustainability. We are prioritizing low-carbon, nature-based models that preserve our natural and cultural heritage by encouraging international certifications and in strengthening community-led management. We ensure that the benefits of tourism are felt by the people who call these destinations as their home. Under these focus areas, we are advancing sustainable tourism. For those of you who would want to have a copy of the ATSP 2026, 2020 to 2030, just scan the QR code provided on the screen, and you can download the copy of the ATSP. Thank you and mabuhay. Magandang hapon sa inyong lahat.
We are here to have a conversation about ASEAN, about regional tourism, and about the need to really work together. So I'm relatively new to the Asian Development Bank, but have been working with ASEAN, with the Department of Tourism in the Philippines over the past year, and have had really the privilege of being able to see the creation of this plan happen in real time. And it's so amazing to see 10, at the time now 11 countries come together across ASEAN to be able to make decisions and to prioritize different elements, right? This is a difficult thing to do because each country has their own priorities, own challenges. And then we are in this increasingly complex world. We are facing multiple challenges across ASEAN, across the globe, in our tourism sectors. There's increasing economic uncertainty, rising global tensions, changing traveler expectations. We've heard from a number of different presenters today, and of course the ongoing challenges of climate risk. And then this of course comes on the heels of the COVID pandemic. And we all know that Asia Pacific is actually still actively recovering from this pandemic, and now we've been hit with another crisis in terms of the spike in fuel prices. So given all of this, what really are the most urgent priorities for ASEAN, and particularly when these countries are looking to achieve this goal of a resilient future, of navigating towards a resilient future?
Thank you, Jess. Earlier, I was thinking that there will be other panelists, on the stage. And it's already late that I discovered that I will be the only one who will be answering the questions from Jess, and now it makes me more nervous. But
I promise to go easy on you.
Anyway, of course, there are a lot of priorities that ASEAN should put into their minds, especially for our leaders, for us to be able to sustain the momentum of the growth of tourism in ASEAN region. However, among these priorities, what actually in my mind that stands out is the interconnectivity of the ASEAN countries to make the travel to ASEAN region seamlessly and, of course, easy for all the travelers around the world. At this moment, if you look at the Philippines, if I may speak about my country, of course, we are the only country that is located far on the east of the other countries in ASEAN. And we do not enjoy cross-border or land border with the other countries in ASEAN. That makes us actually difficult to be accessed by most of the ASEAN travelers and also of the world travelers. And if you look at our statistics, 98% of our travelers visit the Philippines by air, and only about 2% or less than that by sea. So these are the only two access that Philippines enjoy compared to other, the rest of the ASEAN countries where they enjoy cross-border tourism. Now, looking at the statistics based on the ATSP, it says there that about 70% of all the flights going to ASEAN are only enjoyed by the 4 major countries in ASEAN: Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia, and Singapore. And the rest, the rest of the 30% are divided for those countries that, doesn't have that access, or huge access for a lot of travelers around the world. So, in my mind, if I am to answer what is the most priority that should be improved, perhaps in ASEAN, is to again improve the accessibility of all our destinations, not only in the Philippines, but all in other ASEAN countries, especially going to the second-tier destinations of each country.
Thank you so much. I think that's such an important element, particularly when you're looking at strengthening regional cooperation and integration in the tourism space, right? It's about some of that physical infrastructure to make sure that you actually have airports, you have ports, you have land border crossings in the Mekong in particular. But also that there's the policy work that goes alongside that, right? That countries are working on immigration, on border crossing abilities, so that it's easy, it's seamless, right? It's not just accessible, but that access is really seamless from one country to another. I was just in Thailand at the ASEAN Tourism Working Group last week. We worked with the Department of Tourism Philippines, your colleagues, on hosting an investor roundtable with some of the Thai investors in the tourism space. And we really wanted to hear what some of these key issues were. Infrastructure definitely came up. Accessibility definitely came up as a topic. One of the other topics that I thought was quite interesting was the shift in the way that investors are thinking about resiliency. That resiliency is no longer necessarily a standalone initiative anymore, but that they see it as an integral part of achieving sustainability, right? So I think if we think way, way, way back, probably even before I was around, that sustainability was often about the environment. And then we started to think, okay, make sure that we're integrating social and cultural sustainability. And then, of course, we needed to make sure that everything is financially sustainable as well for the long term. But I love this idea that investors are now really thinking about that long-term resiliency, right? So if they invest in something, have they built it properly to withstand some of the climate impacts? Have they thought about these connectivity issues, maybe geopolitical tensions or fuel prices, demand-side shocks, supply-side shocks that might happen. And so I think, it was great to really see that integration between sustainability and resiliency. And I wonder, how do we take this concept? How do we use the ASEAN plan, which highlights both resiliency and sustainability, and translate some of these ideas into practical investments, into real benefits for our communities? What are some of the most important things?
Yeah, as I have presented earlier, the multi-sectoral dialogue is the most important thing that has to be considered, especially, government has its own limitations when it comes to especially the resources needed in building infrastructures, to make our destinations shock-proof or future-proof in the, in ASEAN. So multi-sectoral dialogue needs, needs to be participated by all the sectors involved in tourism industry, the private sector, especially the local community, because at the end of the day, they are the ones who will benefit out of all the things that we are doing in promoting tourism. And that is actually most important thing to remember, all the sustainability and, of course, resiliency should be benefited by the local community, because every visitor arrivals and every single dollar that is being spent in our destinations, it is the local community that benefits, of all these inputs to our economy. So, again, in terms of the multi-sectoral dialogue that we need to enhance and promote in ASEAN, it's not only about the infrastructure, it's not only about developing the destination. What is important is that, it will be the local community that will, benefit of all these, activities that we are doing.
Yeah, I think that's so important that we can't forget, right? At the end of the day, it's really the communities that are delivering the tourism experience and benefiting, or should be benefiting from tourism. And maybe let's talk a little bit about that, about sort of spreading the benefit of tourism. In your first response, you spoke a little bit about secondary destinations. And this is something that we've heard come up, I think, in nearly every session and every speech that was given today, was this concept of rural tourism, of community benefit, of secondary destinations. And this is really important. So, what can countries do, what can governments do or private sector do to be able to really support that secondary destination development? And maybe what types of sequencing needs to be thought about when a new destination is looking to enter the tourism space?
Yeah. Well, actually, again, going back to my presentation, accessibility is more important because no matter how beautiful the destination is, if tourists would be having a difficulty in accessing all those destinations, then there is no benefit that we can talk about. And looking at my country in the Philippines, we have about 7,641 islands.
I've only been to 4.
Four, so you still owe us about 7,637 islands.
I think
more.
I need more vacation, more holiday time to make that happen.
Yeah. Anyway, so, before I became the tourism attaché, I was the head of route development. And I think it's the only national tourism organization in ASEAN that we have a dedicated office to improve accessibility by creating the Office of Route Development. And luckily, I was the first head of that office. And my primary responsibility is to talk to a lot of airlines, attending several or various events about aviation. For us to be able to have an opportunity to talk with different carriers that could actually we could actually encourage to fly to our secondary destinations. Before, we can only have a handful of flights going to, say, Cebu, Davao, Clark, and all other international gateways that we have in early 2000. And when we created the route development, we were able to have the opportunity to talk to these several air carriers. And we have the opportunity to attend to all these aviation events where we have the opportunity to negotiate with the airlines. And look at Cebu now, look at Davao now. They are already having direct flights, not only, from the Middle East, but also to the North America. There is now a direct flight from North America to Cebu. There's a direct flight from Middle East before this war, to Davao, and all other secondary destinations. Actually, that helps travel to the Philippines more easier now, compared to several decades ago, where all flights are actually concentrated in Manila. So if you look at now the dispersal of the economic benefit of tourism, it's all actually concentrated in Manila. But now, because of these secondary destinations that we were able to offer to a lot of airlines, now the benefits are actually dispersed to different provinces.
Yeah, I think that's so important, is really taking a directed, targeted approach at route development, right? I think sometimes destinations sort of think, oh, I build an airport and the planes will come.
Again,
right?
again, access is just one of the, of the ecosystem of tourism industry. Of course, aside from the direct connection, you have to, of course, negotiate also with a lot of accommodation providers, tourism providers, service providers, and so on and so forth, so that you would be able to make the travel experience complete, to every tourist that visits the destination. So the role of the government is also very important, especially in the provision of security, in the provision of basic infrastructures like road network, transportation, power, water, and all other things that the government should be doing, so that the experience of the travel to those destinations should be complete. And what is important is that they could actually tell this experience, no, to other people so that the other people would also be encouraged to visit what they have experienced in those destinations.
Yeah, I think that that role of sequencing and coordination is so important when you're particularly in secondary destination development, that there's so much that you need to think about, right? It's not just the access, it's to the destination, it's the access around the destination, it's making sure there's accommodation and activities. And so much of the tourism private sector are small businesses. This is something we spoke about this morning during the tourism policy roundtable with government, and it was quite interesting to see this commonality of the importance of community benefit, of small business benefit, but really that critical role of government in coordinating across all of these different activities, which is so hard because departments of tourism, authorities and agencies, they don't have the mandate for roads generally, or energy, or water, or wastewater. And that's why we really need to use our tourism skills to be able to bring those parties together, to coordinate and to sequence. I want to talk a little bit about the future. So yesterday, I don't know if any of you had the opportunity to go to the youth symposium. It was great. There's a lot of optimism. There's a lot of enthusiasm. There was also a little bit of uncertainty and a little bit of skepticism in the room. What do you think ASEAN countries need to be doing to really prepare the next generation of tourism leaders? How do we energize the youth and get them engaged and prepared and with the right skills to step into this space?
You know, the young generation of travelers, you know, are now shaping the tourism industry in ASEAN. If you look at our statistics, you know, travelers within the age of 20 to 30 are the ones that are actually filling up the seats of the aviation industry, the rooms of the accommodation industry, the chairs of the restaurant industry, and so on and so forth, you know. And what is interesting is that as they are shaping the tourism industry, digitalization is quite important, you know. Most of the youths that are traveling, you know, the younger population do not approach the traditional travel agency that we used to, you know, to do when we were young. Yeah.
I am old enough to remember a brick and mortar travel agency.
They do their own travel, customization of their travel. They have this AI, you know, that help them to customize their travel. And of course, they are now the ones that are actually putting up a lot of contribution to the economy. Now, what do we have to do so that this generation will be future, you know, in the future, resilient and sustainable, and as well as what we are going to do for them to be able to be the lead role of the tourism industry in the future. As you have mentioned, skills is quite important, you know, for those who are planning to be part of the industry in the future. We have to, to develop their skills. When I was, you know, a professor, I was a professor for 15 years, by the way, in different universities in Manila, teaching about tourism marketing, tourism planning, and so on and so forth. But the only thing that I always remind my students is that don't forget to have a second or third language that you should learn so that you would be able to communicate effectively to your clients. One of the things that very difficult for the destination, because destination is just 10% experience and 90% interpretation. No matter how beautiful the destination is, if it is interpreted incorrectly by the one that is bringing you to that destination, then the whole experience, is already ruined, So that is why if you have these skills in communicating the language of your market, then you would be able to bring the true story about the destination. So the expression, the passion, that you have for you to be able to communicate the right messages through the language that your market understand, this is the thing that you have to acquire for you to be able to make the future of this industry, resilient and sustainable.
Amazing. I don't know if Nick is here, but your next youth symposium, you need to get Erwin here to come and speak. Very inspiring. One very short last question. It's 2030. We're looking back on the implementation of the ASEAN Tourism Sectoral Plan. In one or two words, what does success look like? How do we know we've achieved the goals set out in the plan?
When all these numbers that we have put in these plans are already achieved, then we can say that we are successful. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. We look forward to continuing this conversation. And please, thank you very much, Dr. Erwin.